What is up, YouTube? Mr. King coming live from the 209. So we've got today. I'm just going to go over the biology final. The Bellware questions should have been turned in already. So this video is just in case you need any help with the final. I'm going to go over all the questions. So here's the final. It is on a Google Doc. The first question, you have a model showing fish and algae, and you basically figure out what goes into the algae for photosynthesis, what goes into the fish for respiration. So like 2A, you can see it's going in the fish, so what's going in? Make sure you actually be specific and write like water or like whatever the input is. Don't just write input, output, like the quiz. Cool, next, describe the fish and algae's role in carbon cycling in the atmosphere from the illustration above. Write incomplete sentences and make sure to include in your answer these three things. So you need to talk about how do fish impact the amount of CO2 in the water. So how does CO2 change with fish? What impact does algae have on the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere? And then which organism, fish, or algae can store carbon and how? Ugly, foul-smelling, and sometimes toxic algae blooms are becoming more common in freshwater ecosystems like rivers, lakes, ponds, and reservoirs. Algae blooms have a harmful impact on aquatic ecosystems in the form of dead zones, areas in a water body with so little oxygen that aquatic life can't survive. When algae and bacteria in an algae bloom die, microorganisms, such as bacteria in the water near the bottom, consume the algae and bacteria, and in the process, use up most of the surrounding oxygen. So here, based on the reading, if this fish were to find itself in a dead zone, what inputs or outputs would no longer appear in the model? Explain why these would no longer be made. So you tell me which input or output wouldn't be available, and then you'll explain why. Next one, simple organisms like yeast and bacteria can survive in dead zones. Larger complex organisms like fish require oxygen to survive. Why is this? Use the following words in your answer. Next one, look at the image below and label each numbered item with a process if it absorbs or releases carbon or warms or cools the planet in the table below. So number one, for example, you have forest fire. So does a forest fire absorb or release carbon? What process is it? And then does this warm or cool the planet? Yep, and then you go through all five. Next one, you have a graph. You have CO2 per time, CO2 over time. And then you have a graph or a picture of Stockton's waterfront. And then the first one, how have global temperatures changed over the last 200 years? How has CO2 changed over the last 200 years? Then you'll just write it here. Then the next one, given the temperature and CO2 data above, how will the frequency of algae blooms like the one shown above change in the coming years and why? Cite data from the graph above to support your answer. And remember, higher water temps increase algae's carrying capacity. So you'll answer that here. Make sure you include photosynthesis, temperature, and CO2 to talk about how will algae blooms change. Like, will they go up or down in the coming years? Next one, you have a food web here, the ocean. Based on the food web above, hunting of sharks by humans has increased in international waters. How will the increase in humans hunting sharks affect the rest of the food web? Next one, which organism should have the largest population and why? So figure out like which of these should have the largest population and why. And the next one, local Stocktonians have polluted the water with plastic waste, leading to a lot of birds choking on plastic, causing their population to decline. Choose two other species from the food web above and describe how this will affect them. And then I put some extra credit questions, 2 points each. Explain why the cartoons are supposed to be funny. Yep. And then the rubrics for what I'm grading are down here. If you guys want to know how to get full points. Yep. Cool. Thank you everyone for staying the whole time. Have a great day and enjoy fall break. Bye.